Welcome to Artists in Residences, the Westport Library's virtual artist series. I'm Carol Erger-Fass, exhibit curator at the library. Today, Miggs Burroughs takes us to the studio of Nancy Landauer. Nancy's lived in Westport for over 25 years, and growing up in New York, she always knew she wanted to be an artist. So after getting her BFA from Parsons School of Design, she went on to a career in editorial illustration and textile design. It was there where she honed her skills working with licensed characters and also graphic composition. Now, free of the restraints of commercial art, Nancy is focused full-time on her own work. And although her early paintings were loose and colorful abstracts, her newer work has transitioned to mixed media collage and hard-edged acrylic paintings. Her retro-looking canvases melt together fragments of logos, recognizable comic book characters from her childhood, and text and sayings which can inspire a feeling of nostalgia in the viewer. Nancy says that creating mixed media collage returns her to her roots as an illustrator, while allowing her to create a narrative and express her opinions on various subjects. So now let's join Nancy and Miggs, and we can see some of her new work up close.
Thank you very much, Carol, and thanks to the library for this wonderful opportunity to do this series. I think we've done more than 30 so far of artists in residences. And today is Nancy Landauer, who had a show at the library. When was that, Nancy? Was it last year?
Last year, I believe. Yeah, thank you to the library.
Yeah, I was in the Sheffer Gallery and got to see a lot of your work, and it's amazing the difference. I don't know how you find it when, you can see an artist's work by itself and then, but all of a sudden it's in a room with its brothers and sisters, so to speak, and it takes on a different, I don't know, people say it's a conversation. I don't know, do you like that word, art having a conversation with itself?
Yes, and you can see, I think, an evolution, although I tend to go back and forth from styles I've started with, and then I go on to something else. I often return to that style. But it's also nice to see a body of work all gathered together that way.
And does that ever, so your current, I mean, we're looking over your shoulder and we see the Hague, the Pan Am and the black and white kind of pop arty. Is this your most current?
I'm most proud of these. And I'll go in close so you can see the amount of detail that I love to sit for hours and just kind of noodle around and make sure there are just no imperfections. So I'm kind of proud of the amount of time
crisp
invested. Yeah, very crisp. And that harkens back to my days as a textile designer, children's wear designer, you may have guessed. And I love that it kind of gives I think, an edgy feel, incorporating the retro logos and painting only in black, white, and gray. In this case, I think transformed it into art instead of just recognizable characters and logos.
Yeah, it's interesting because even though they're cartoon figures, these iconic figures, if they're in color, they'd look maybe too cartoony, but so you've distilled them down to just the faces and.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I felt it's like a little more edgy that way. And I composed them the way you would a large collage. And I like to spin the characters, as you can see here, multi-directional, not just plunking them down all in the same direction. I think it gives it a lot of movement, a lot of action, and it's more impactful that way.
Why may I sort of ask, I think I may have asked this at the library too, why are the 8s and the 8-ball dripping?
It's just a device. Again, the edge, when things start feeling a little contrite or sweet, I like to kind of break it up a little. And I kept these very clean and crisp, but I may do some more with this. Actually, I'm going to turn around and show you where I got a little bit more painterly.
Mhm.
and still
Oh,
used cartoon characters, but at first glance, it looks like a very traditional kind of a painting. It has some beautiful things in it, which I don't usually do things that are pretty. Um,
Mr.
but I tried
Magoo.
to evoke street art,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
and you might see Mr. Magoo hanging around there,
Magoo. Yeah, I remember.
and um, Sylvester. And I used pretty gold paint that catches the light, and I painted flowers and hummingbirds and dragonflies. There are some hidden messages. I mean, we just have the street art, all we need is love, but it also says, well, can you see what it says? I'm not sure if you can read it.
Let's see, well, you've got brand names, Adidas, worst, all we need is love. Oh, worst enemy, something, or we're
My
our
own
own worst
enemy.
Yeah, okay.
So might have been a bad day for me in the studio. Right, but I like to make it look the way you see in New York, where handbills peel and then there are layers,
Oh, yeah.
and there's a lot of texture in this piece. I don't know if we can pick up on
Oh,
camera.
yeah. Oh, it's great.
Yeah, so just kind of giving it a little bit of a different twist, but still very collagey in feeling, even though it's all painted. For the most part, everything is painted in here.
Yeah, and even you don't have to go back to it, but the one of, it's Nancy, the cartoon character Nancy, your namesake. But so it's very crisp and everything, but those little drips kind of remind the viewer, hey, this is paint. You know, you're looking at a painting. It doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't just glue it down and I can do anything I want to it. And yes.
Yeah, it's just sort of a little subtle reminder that, it's not silk screened, it's not stenciled, it's not, decal. Yeah.
Exactly. But I will say she printed up beautifully on plexi, nice and shiny. So that's like another incarnation of her. And I have lurking around the corner here another plexi, which is great because when the original goes, I still have my friends around me. So that's just an all collage mixed media piece. I don't know if it's too dark here. If you can see.
No, it can look that fine. Yeah. And pieces of ripped from the headlines, as it were, or the dictionary, Utopia.
The dictionary, yeah, exactly. Sort of, it says above that, your utopia is my dystopia. So, and just I love hitting on that 60s version of suburbia, where it was imagined as a utopia, and often there were other things lurking behind the white picket fences.
This, I don't know if you've seen WandaVision, but this predates WandaVision, but it has got a very similar tone to it, right?
Oh, is that, no, I have not seen WandaVision.
Okay.
I will look into it.
Yeah. Anyway, it starts off as a very benign 1950s situation comedy, kind of like Father Knows Best. And then there's all these kind of very layers to it where people break out of the format and it's kind of, but you did it first.
Yeah, right. But it's great. I think in a lot of the pieces I do, I'm thinking about childhood and the past and the evolution of my family and the passage of time. And it's a recurrent theme. And just childhood. I mean, these are, all about childhood. And I actually showed these at the White Room Gallery in Bridgehampton. And the title of the show was Time to Play. So.
Were you, as a kid, was Nancy a significant childhood, figure?
I'm not.
Because you're a Nancy?
I'm not quite that old.
No,
she predates me just a little. But I do remember, I think she was still in the funny pages. That's how old I am, funny pages. So I knew her, I was familiar with her. And I just literally picked a lot of these characters for their graphic quality. Like I was looking for things that had a good, strong black and that would really pop in a black and white and gray piece. So you need that solid black to repeat throughout the piece. And she certainly was a good example of that.
Now, I think, I have asked this on behalf of some of the people out there that might be thinking, well, Scott, she's using all these logos. There's Ford and Kellogg and Pan Am and Paramount, TWA, NASA, Kodak, to name a few. How is that legal?
It actually is. I was feeling very nervous about that, and saw a documentary on Shepard Fairey, which discussed this. And he did get in quite a bit of trouble, but in the end, it was deemed that if you have changed this licensed character in some way and put it in another format, that it's legal to use. So I guess if I was just taking straight up Mickey Mouse and printing sweatshirts and selling licensed character like in product, I don't think that would be thought of as legal at all. But changing them in some way is legal.
No, absolutely. And it's called the fair use doctrine, if anybody wants to look it up. Yeah, and you're reinterpreting it, and they are public domain to some extent. I mean, you can, so, but yeah, that answers that for anybody that's asking. And
Right.
So
right. And we had, I looked into the logos, and Andy Warhol did this back in the 60s or early 70s. So of course, nothing is original.
Yeah.
But he somehow did not have trouble with it. And it's interesting that later, so much later, this artist did, Shepard Fairey, had so much trouble with it.
Yeah. And I've in turn appropriated Andy Warhol's images. So they, if they're not going to sue him, they can't sue me.
Exactly. It's all fair game. Right?
Yeah. But I'm curious, back to textiles. So do you ever, did you do like patterns for pajamas or pillowcases or curtains or what kind of thing? And if so, any of those or more, do you ever go into somebody's house and go, oh my God, I did that pillowcase,
No, not anymore. It was kind of a long time ago, but we did what we had to do as a young artist in New York, and paying rent for the first time. And I, looked for staff jobs, and most of the staff jobs that you could get were in textiles in those days. So I worked for Everlast. I worked for New York Kids, for Fisher Price. We did Carter licensing. I worked for a printer that used many various licenses, and really learned so much by doing that. Because in effect, you're creating a print. You're creating, an engineered print is what they called it. And so you learned a lot about how to compose and deliver your message in a clean way.
And things repeat, right? If you create an image if it is, I don't know, wallpaper or pattern, whatever you did,
yes, then you would create repeats, and everything was by hand in those days. So much fun.
Yeah.
If you wanted to change just that one little thing to pink, you had to do the whole thing over again. And yeah, so.
And how do you think that informed just the precision of it? Well, actually, some of your work is not, I would say, precise. It's intentional, but it's not like the crisp. So what do you think carried over from that experience?
Right. Well, definitely these, the childhood series that I did is just a total nod back to working in licensed characters. But I couldn't have that much fun with these when I was just doing it for pajamas or whatever it was. Yeah. I'm not sure how they would have gone for that, but so I took them, and I guess they're lurking around in my subconscious, having spent so much time doing that type of thing, and tried to turn it into art and bring them, all my memories into my art. So
yeah, sort of maybe a revenge on the constraints of pattern textile design. But
exactly. It was a very constrained experience as an artist. You're creating product, and this way I could have my way with them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Boris
Right.
Badenoff, well, he's definitely from my childhood or teen.
Yes, yeah.
And
I haven't used his wife yet. What was her name?
Natasha.
Natasha, of course, and Bullwinkle.
Bullwinkle and Rocky the squirrel. Yeah.
Right. They may appear soon. We'll see.
And if you don't have it here, but I can insert images. But there's a series on the Rolling Stone. Well, some rock groups, several rock groups, but the Stones seem particularly charmed with.
There's a big trend of artists doing icons, icons of pop culture. And some of them, it seems, everyone has Audrey Hepburn, or, Kate Moss comes up a lot. So at first I was like, well, I'm not doing that. And then it just kind of seemed like so much fun. I'm like, let's take a swing at that. And so if you like, I can now walk down and show you some of those.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as we go, you can see a very large, I'm going to flip the camera,
Okay.
an art abstract, which is kind of where I started, and selling artwork for interior design was a great way to start. It was very loose, kind of the opposite that you saw in the childhood series. But I sold this particular look, really, people connected with that. So that was a lot of fun and something certainly new for me. So back to the icons. So we have Elizabeth Taylor. And in her,
what's in her hair? What's going on?
In her hair, or what I tried to put her life experience into. She had that little run-in with Eddie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds. Michael Jackson's lurking around. I tried to minimize him a bit. And then just, things from her era, the car from her era. She's an American beauty to me. So the red rose, of course, her jewelry, her beauty. She's just like unbelievably beautiful. And we all know that. But when I did research to put the piece together, I truly appreciated her beauty and enjoyed watching a lot of her old movies.
Cleopatra was one of the biggies.
Right. And then just to we can look at anything here, but the icons are over here. This is one of the first pieces I did and sold many. This is a plexi, so that was really nice. And then I love Mick so much. I mean, that face. So I did do this version, which I think shows kind of the evolution. I got more confident with how I was using imagery and just being looser with it, and having a little more fun.
Yeah, and it has a Rolling Stones, I don't know the right word, grit, I would say, or energy to it.
Yes, that was really important to me, that if I was going to do the piece, that it should reflect the artist's music. I've seen some recently, for example, Jimi Hendrix, and it had a very cartoony background, and I felt like it didn't reflect his music. So I'm just going to swing around here a little bit. I did very early on, I did James Brown. And of course, Keith, I had to do Keith Richards, but he hasn't found a home. People like Mick, what can you do?
But he's your neighbor. I mean, he's all our neighbors. I mean, he lives like 5 miles from all of us, right?
Yes. I've yet to see him around town, but maybe one day. And then I did this for an interior designer as a commission. A very lucky teenage boy had created for him. It's his 3 favorite bands, some of which I was familiar with and some not. And she printed it on plexi for the room, so I have the original here. But just tried to really, I did hand lettering and tried to really give it a street feel, and was challenged by putting 3 bands into one piece, but I think they all kind of live happily together.
Yeah, if you look, I mean, I don't know if you've, I went to London years and years and years ago, but and a lot of the clubs would plaster their club posters on one on top of the other on top of the other on sides of buildings, and that's what it looked like.
That's exactly what I was trying to evoke. And there were certain lyrics that were important to him, so I tried to incorporate those specific songs. And he really got to participate in the creation of it in that way. So it was a very personal piece, and I do believe they liked it very much.
Yeah. That's terrific. No, again, the energy and the kind of authenticity of it. Some people try to clean up the images too much, but
Right. Well, I felt like I'm going to turn the camera and just, I'm sort of, I work in very different styles, and I kind of find value in all of them. And sometimes it gets a little cute or sugary, and I try to go the other direction. And so that's why there's so much swinging back and forth. But I will say that those are often the most popular, and people really connect with characters from their youth. This is going off to a place in Chicago this afternoon.
Oh, nice.
And I tried, when I do use pop cartoons like this, I use political statements to give them a little bit of edge. So it's not just a cute piece. It may look cute at first glance, but they have teeth sometimes. So I'll show inside, or you can add the other Veronica piece I did that says, "Nevertheless, she persisted," which is Elizabeth Warren's statement. I mean, it looks pink and cute, but it's a great message for girls. A lot of people connected with it. I have an attorney who hung it in her office. And it's just, a great feminist statement in this time of Me Too movement.
Yeah, that's right. And you got the Chanel logo. Yeah, no, there's a lot going on there.
There's a lot going on there. It's a fun piece.
And you're drawn in by, the simplicity of the cartoon figure, but then there's a message.
Message for the girls. Absolutely. Yeah. Message of strength. So, and then these are just more of that collage feel, all painted using the logos. I did do a whole series of crying women.
I don't want to get nosy, but I mean, it's just.
I don't know why. I just love those images. I guess it felt more, it's too easy to smile. It was a little more interesting to have the tears. And that's an iconic thing in pop art, is the crying comic book woman. But then you got my favorite shows in there: Bewitched, Twister, like all this 60s stuff from childhood, The Game of Life, the spinner from Twister.
Yeah, that's funny. And
so kind of a fun piece.
It's interesting how, because crying is such an intense emotion, and yet, when it's done in a cartoon, it's just could be in typical cartoons, it's trivialized, but you're kind of trying to reinvigorate it, I guess, as a real emotion.
Right. I think, you look at it at first, they seem rather sweet, and then I like to just have that little bit of a twist in there, and it makes you think, and I hope it makes the viewer have their own narrative. Like it's triggering things in their memory, or it's juxtaposing, love and crying, and what's going on here. Is there a story? And I invite the viewer to fill in the blanks.
Yeah, it could be anything from, my boyfriend left me to I just broke a nail, whatever.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm just swinging over here too. This was a commission from another interior designer.
Evan
Hansen. Yeah. I did not see the show, so that was interesting. Trying to put that together. And I did research online. I listened to the music and tried to capture the feel.
Which was written by two Westport kids, by the way.
Yes, yes. So it's a whole Westport collaboration. Again, did a lot of hand lettering with the lyrics and sheet music and various collaged elements. And again, she printed the plexi, and I own the original.
How much, when you do commissions, like that other one, my son likes Green Day and Rage Against the Machine, and what the other one was,
Sum 41, who I don't even know.
Oh, I've never heard of that. No. Do they give you any direction, or it's just like that's the subject matter and go with it? Or are some people more deliberate and say, in the upper left-hand corner has to have a picture of, Sting, and the lower right, I mean, how specific?
They didn't tell me like percentages for each band. I think it's a little bit heavy on Green Day, maybe because I was most familiar with their music. But he just wanted to make sure I don't know the guitar player's name, I'm sorry, but that was featured, that he was featured rather, and certain songs he wanted the lyrics, he did participate in that way, specified to include certain songs. And so it was kind of cool. I felt like we were working together on the piece. And I loved that it was really personal to someone and they cared about what was going into this, instead of just like, I need red over the couch and not just the throw pillows. So kind of a different thing. And I'm going to walk inside and show you where I create a lot when I'm not at the easel, which is here. I sit in my drafting table, which is the same one I've had since my art school days at Parsons. Same chair too. It doesn't look comfortable, but it is. And I'm working on a commission now based on the piece that you see here, which is so different. If you think of Veronica, this was kind of a big swing into a much more moody, personal, insightful piece, but you can see also the game of life makes an appearance. There are certain things that repeat. The little houses of suburbia is a common theme for me, all the little boxes.
So is this a sketch or is this a work in progress? I mean,
this is actually a finished piece that's going to be framed.
Okay.
And then there was another piece I had done a long time ago. It might have been the first collage I did since I started doing this again, that she liked the bright colors, and we're going to base a lot of the color on that. And she's going to include her own family photos. That's my mother.
Oh, really?
That's my sister. Her own family photos will be used, and she's given me some hints of writing of what the theme is. This one has a lot of writing, and here I talk about people needing an explanation for what's going on in the piece, because I knew that was going to come. But I really use writing as texture and pattern the most, and it's often just free association, whatever comes to mind at the moment based on the theme. And we're going to include, there's a year that's significant for her, so these are raised glass tiles, so little mixed media there. And so that is upcoming. I actually pulled out the tiles for her.
Do they get to, I'm just, because to me it would be, I wouldn't be able to sleep, but do they get to see it? Do they want to see it like, day 3 and day 4 and day 9, or you just deliver it and say, here it is?
That's always, that's a really insightful question. It's because, how much micromanaging do you allow? And once the person is given their initial input, I hope that they hand it to the artist and just let go and let God. Often I've done even abstracts where people wanted to control so much of each stroke. I was asked to change, and you just change that one little, and you want to be successful, so you do these things. It's not good to have a tantrum. So I try to be as accommodating as possible. But in this case, it's going through an art consultant. And so they're trying to keep things, more in my hands, which is really nice.
Oh, yeah, it's good if you can have somebody on your side. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But obviously, if they want to include, she's already given me a theme. She's asked for certain words to be used. And so I will elaborate on that. But try to really include, what she wants to see in the piece and make it very personal. And obviously her family photos will do that. And yeah, so it's kind of a nice thing that's developing where people can sort of participate in the art a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. They have ownership, more than emotional ownership, more than just, financial ownership. But
Right.
well, we're just out of time, but I'm curious, because a lot of artists they're artists as a result of everyone telling them not to be artists. You have to be a basketball player. Well, they won't say that. You have to be a nurse. You have to be
I'm too short.
you have to be this or that. Did you come from a family of artists or creatives?
Indeed. My mother was an artist from day one. She actually went to night school at Cooper Union as a young woman. She did paper sculpture and store display. She was a textile designer. So she, obviously, and an actress in her very early days. So she was, just a creative person. And when she saw that developing in me, she really did want to nurture that. And that was wonderful. And luckily, my father went along for the ride with that one. I got to go to art school. I got to go to a pre-college program at Rhode Island School of Design. And I went to Parsons School of Design for my BFA in illustration 100 years ago. So, but wonderful experiences. And that's the support of my family that was all about that. My brother is a professional musician, and my sister was a talented actress who took another path, but has that ability. And so a very creative family.
Well, they certainly made the right decision encouraging you. So thank you so much, Nancy, for, that was a wonderful tour. And we're going to say goodbye, I guess, right?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Carol. And thank you to the Westport Library for being so supportive of my efforts. And it is greatly appreciated.
And people can go to nancylandauer.com, right, to see more of your
Nancy Landauer Fine Art.
Fine art, okay.
And yes, that is my website.
All right.
Please visit. Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Nancy, for sharing your studio space with us today. It is always really cool to see where an artist's influences come from. And being of the same generation, it sure has brought back a lot of memories. Now, to see more of our Artist in Residence's videos, check out the library's webpage, westportlibrary.org. Thanks, and hope to see you back at the library soon.